This is Hallstatt, Austria. A village with fewer than 1,000 people, where time doesn't feel like it's moving forward, just lingering, and hidden in these mountains, is a dish locals have been making the same way for centuries. Today, I'll show you how to find it, how to eat it the right way, and the one mistake that ruins the experience for most travelers. Welcome to Timeless Places Local Cuisine, where we travel not just to see places, but to experience how they feel. In this video, you'll discover why Hallstatt feels frozen in another century, where to find the most authentic Käsespätzle in town, and how to visit without falling into the usual tourist traps. Let's step inside a place that never rushed into the modern world. Tucked between a quiet lake and steep alpine mountains, Hallstatt isn't easy to expand. And that's exactly why it hasn't changed much. For centuries, this village survived because of one thing: salt. Long before modern cities, salt from these mountains was already being traded across Europe. And here's something most people don't realize: Hallstatt is so preserved that an entire prehistoric culture was named after it. Another surprising detail: cars were only allowed here relatively recently. Before that, everything came in by boat, which is why the village still feels quiet and untouched. And then there's the food, Käsespätzle, simple, but deeply rooted in alpine life: soft egg noodles, layered with melted mountain cheese, finished with crispy onions on top. Traditionally, it's made fresh, the dough pressed by hand into boiling water. No shortcuts. Locals will tell you, the secret isn't just the recipe, it's the patience. It begins simply: flour, eggs and a touch of salt. No machines. No shortcuts, just hands that know exactly what they're doing. The dough is pressed, folded, turned, again and again, until it feels right, not measured by time but by instinct. In places like Hallstatt, recipes aren't written down, they're remembered, passed quietly from one generation to the next, and before anything else happens, this moment matters most, because this is where the dish truly begins. Once ready, the dough is lifted, and pressed through a simple board. Each piece falls into boiling water, imperfect, uneven, human, and almost instantly, it changes. The raw dough transforms into soft spätzle, rising gently to the surface. Steam fills the air, the kitchen grows warmer. It's a quiet transformation, but an important one. This is where patience meets process, and something simple becomes something real. Now, the heart of the dish, the spätzle are layered into a pan, and covered generously with alpine cheese, not just for flavor, but for depth. As the heat builds, the cheese begins to melt, slowly wrapping itself around every piece. Nothing is rushed here, because this step, this balance between heat and time, is what defines the dish. Too fast, and it breaks; too slow, and it loses its texture. But done right, it becomes something more than the sum of its parts. Then comes the contrast: crispy, golden onions, added at just the right moment. They bring texture, a slight sharpness, a needed balance. The pan is stirred gently, just enough to bring everything together: creamy, warm, rich, and then, that subtle crunch on top. It's a small detail, but without it, the dish wouldn't feel complete. Served simply, without decoration, because it doesn't need it: soft spätzle, coated in melted cheese, finished with crisp onions. The first bite is warm, comforting, familiar, not overwhelming. Not complicated, just honest food, made the same way for generations. And in a place like Hallstatt, that's what makes it unforgettable. The first bite is rich, warm, almost comforting, not fancy, not complicated, just honest food, made the same way for generations. If you're planning to visit, timing matters. Early morning or late evening is when Hallstatt feels real. Midday it fills with tour groups. Best way to arrive: train and ferry. It's slower, but it gives you that first magical view of the village. And here's the one mistake to avoid: don't eat at the first restaurant near the main square. Walk a little further, look for smaller, quieter places. That's where you'll find the real Käsespätzle. Let's talk cost. A plate of authentic Käsespätzle, around 12 to 18 euros. A night stay, 120 to 250 euros depending on the season. Compared to Salzburg, Hallstatt is more expensive, but you're paying for something very different: stillness, history, and atmosphere. A full day here can cost around 150 to 300 euros, but if you plan it right, even a short visit feels complete. What surprised me most wasn't the views, it was how quickly everything slowed down. There's a small spot most tourists miss, a quiet path just beyond the main village, where the crowds disappear, and it's just you, the lake, and the mountains. That's where Hallstatt feels real, not in the photos, not in the crowds, but in the quiet moments in between. The path doesn't announce itself, no sign, no line of people waiting to enter. You could pass it without ever knowing it's there. But if you take that turn, and follow it just a little further, everything begins to soften, the sounds behind you fade, conversations become distant, footsteps disappear, and what replaces them is something quieter. You start to notice the lake, not just how it looks, but how it moves, small ripples drifting slowly across the surface, catching the light. Then letting it go, the mountains stand still around you, unchanged, unmoving, patient, as if they've been waiting here far longer than anyone passing through. There's a stillness here that feels unfamiliar at first, almost like silence, but not empty. It's full of small, quiet details, the wind moving through the trees, water touching the shore, the soft shift of gravel beneath your feet, things that are always there, but rarely noticed. You find a place to stop, maybe a bench, maybe just a spot along the edge of the path, and for a moment, you don't reach for your phone, you don't try to capture it, because something tells you, this isn't meant to be recorded. Time feels different here, slower, but not in a heavy way, more like it's giving you space, space to think, or not think at all, just to sit, and exist in a place that isn't asking anything from you. And that's when it becomes clear, this is what people miss, when they rush through, they see the village, but not the feeling, they take the photo, but not the pause. Because this place, this quiet path just beyond everything, is where Hallstatt stops being a destination, and becomes something else, something slower, something more personal. And when you finally stand up to leave, nothing around you has changed, the mountains are still there, the lake is still calm, but somehow, you're not exactly the same, just slightly quieter, slightly more aware. And maybe that's the real reason, places like this stay with you, not because of what you saw, but because of how they made you feel. Hallstatt isn't just a place you visit, it's a place you experience slowly, from its centuries-old history, to a simple dish like Käsespätzle. Everything here reminds you that not everything needs to change, that some things are meant to stay the way they are, not because they're stuck in the past, but because they've already found what works. In Hallstatt, life doesn't try to move faster than it needs to, mornings arrive quietly, afternoons unfold without urgency, evenings settle in without noise, and somewhere in between, you begin to adjust, your steps slow down, your thoughts feel lighter, you stop looking for what's next, and start noticing what's already there. It's not something you plan, it just happens, a quiet shift, almost unnoticeable at first, but by the time you leave, you realize you've been moving differently, seeing differently, feeling differently, and maybe that's what makes places like this rare, not just their beauty, but their ability to change your pace, without asking. If you enjoyed this journey, subscribe for more timeless places, and local flavors from around the world, because there are still places like this out there, quiet, overlooked, waiting to be experienced, not rushed. Next, we're heading somewhere completely different, a place with a different rhythm, a different story, but just as unforgettable. Until then, take your time. Hallstatt isn't just a place you visit, it's a place you experience slowly. From its centuries-old history, to a simple dish like Käsespätzle, everything here reminds you that not everything needs to change. If you enjoyed this journey, subscribe for more timeless places and local flavors around the world. Next, we're heading somewhere completely different, but just as unforgettable.